We are so excited to have back on the podcast for round 2. It was a couple years ago, but so excited to have Craig Ballantyne back on. Craig, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic and super stoked to have a conversation with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you back. And I remember when we had you the first time, just the reception that we got from all of our listeners, they were so pumped. And I was so pumped to be able to get your book, The Dark Side of Discipline, and read it. I read it in 2 days, just cover to cover. Just phenomenal stuff. And as I told you beforehand, I'll tell the listeners right now, like, I don't know if there's ever been a book that was written for a specific person at a specific time in their lives as your book to me right now, and put so much into perspective for me as a new business owner, as a young father, as a high achiever, or hopefully I'm a high achiever, but like there were so many things that really resonated and really clicked with me. And so I'm really excited to kind of dive into a lot of that stuff with you here today. But I would love to know, just with what you do as a business coach, as an entrepreneur, what was the motivation for writing this book, and what was it the biggest messages that you wanted to get across to the people that were going to read it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one of the reasons why it resonates with you is the young father thing. And so since I chatted with you guys last, it was like 3 years ago, and I have 3 kids now. So, we have,
you guys got after it quick.
Yeah, we did. It was a natural hat trick, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I was probably talking about in there that resonated with you. And obviously as a business owner too, and as somebody who wants to, be definitely above average for sure. And, the intro story to the book is really what inspired me to write it. And it's a true story. It is a little bit of a mix between 2 different people that really had a downfall in their lives. And they had a downfall even though they were trying to do good stuff. And they focused on the wrong good stuff and lost a lot of the great stuff in their lives. And so we can chase discipline is, the book is sectioned into 3 different parts, and it's stop chasing is the first one. So we see things on the internet. It doesn't matter. Like, some of the stuff that shows up on my Instagram are these guys with these crazy outdoor backyard rinks, and they're doing amazing skating drills. And it's like, oh, I'd love to be able to do that. Well, like that would not improve my life in any way, nor would cold plunging, nor would, becoming a natural bodybuilder or all these things. They're really cool. And yeah, it takes discipline to do those things, but that's not for my life. And to pursue those things, chase those things, which are the right things for other people at their point in life, would be the wrong thing for me. And that's what happened to my friends. And they lost everything. They got divorced, they lost their wives and kids. And it's like, man, what a horrible thing, all because they were trying to do good. And so stop chasing, suffer less, because in order to be a high performer and achieve things in life, you will have to go through what is felt like suffering or portrayed as suffering. Like, oh man, you don't go out drinking on the weekends, Craig, anymore and get drunk. And it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, so I kind of miss out on some banter and stuff, but that's like short-term suffering for long-term gain. Whereas if I stayed in that lifestyle, and, I grew up in Stratford, Ontario, a lot of great hockey players came through there. And in Stratford, you either drank beer and played hockey, or played hockey, then drank beer. And it didn't matter which order you were doing it. Sometimes, I mean, I remember one game I played when I was a teenager, I did drink beer before playing, and I'd not have a good game. And, that's really stupid. And, those things, yes, you suffer in kind of in a way, just like you suffer studying for a test, but the benefits are in the long run are much greater than the short-term suffering. And so you don't have to suffer. You don't have to go through these extreme 2 workouts a day programs and all these other things and have your life suffer in order to be successful. And we talk about this guy, Charlie Munger, in the book. And Charlie Munger, he passed away at 99.9 years old. Like, he was 34 days short of his 100th birthday. And, I believe in exercise, but Charlie didn't exercise. He was a billionaire. He mentored the world's richest man who was the world's richest man for a while, Warren Buffett. He made tens of thousands of people millionaires through Berkshire Hathaway. He had a marriage. He had kids. He had grandkids. Okay, he never cold plunged. He never did any of these things, but he had everything that a man would want in life. Okay, maybe he didn't have like muscles or anything, but he had money, power, and respect more than more than almost anybody else in the world. And so you don't have to do the suffering in order to achieve great things in life. Yeah, a workout's going to cause you suffering, sure, but it's short-term suffering for long-term gain. So it's suffer less is the second part, and then achieve more. And really, I know a lot of people, I used to say this all the time back when I was coaching personal trainers in their businesses. They would come to these workshops that we would do, and the people in the audience had 8% body fat and $8 in their bank account. And we would teach them sales and marketing, but on the breaks, they would talk to each other about workouts and nutrition. And they would come back to the same type of event next year, and they'd be at 7% body fat with $7 in their bank account. And they were pursuing the wrong things. It's like, I'm going to go and do more workouts and stuff and go from 8% body fat to 7% body fat. But that didn't change anything in their lives. On the other hand, if they just would have applied the sales and marketing to their business, they wouldn't be broke anymore. And so a lot of people put what we call a level 10 effort into level 1 problems and a level 1 effort into their level 10 problems. And, my friends who did these discipline programs online, their real problem was their marriage. And they put a level 1 effort into it because they put a level 10 problem or level 10 effort into these challenges, which took a lot of time, and they didn't spend any time working on their marriage. And when they were done the challenge, which they finished a couple of times, they got all these, people on the internet giving them a pat on the back, but the people that mattered walked out on them. And it broke my heart because one of the guys who that happened to, I really looked up to the guy. He's from a big family, and he had a big family. And I thought this guy was a great wife, and, he had a fancy car, and he had, amazing kids, and he had a great business. And I was like, okay, the guy's living the dream. And he threw it away. And so that really inspired me to speak up and say, listen, stop chasing the wrong things in life, because if you achieve them, you still have the chance of losing everything. So that's what the book's about. And that's one of the big lessons is the ultimate definition of discipline is putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problem. And I know what people are thinking. They're like, I tune into a hockey podcast, and here's what it is. Like, even for a hockey player, think about a hockey player, right? And we all know people that are really great, well talented, but they make it to OHL or AHL level, but they never crack the big leagues. And other guys who aren't as talented come along. Well, it's because those other guys who aren't as talented put a level 10 effort in their level 10 problem. Coach, what's stopping me from getting to the next level? Well, you need to work on your face-offs. You need to work on this, boring stuff. And the other guy who can pick corners all day, he just picks corners in practice, right? And he doesn't put effort. He puts a level 1 effort into the thing that's holding him back from going from the AHL to the NHL. And we see that all the time. And so at the end of the day, the biggest message that anybody can take from this podcast is take a little bit of self-reflection and think, what are the biggest problems in my life? Like, what are my level 10 problems? Am I drinking too much? Am I not, communicating enough in my marriage? Hockey players and hockey coaches, like, am I taking the easy way out? And yeah, I'm going to practice and I'm running practices and all this stuff, but we're not working on the things that are actually going to make the difference. We're doing stuff that we kind of enjoy. And I was a personal trainer once, and every single client I had hated the exercise that they needed to do the most. And that's when you knew like, oh yeah, this is the exercise they need to do, because you could see it when it's like, okay, we're going to do this one next. Split squats. Everybody hates split squats, but almost every single client needed them. And, the average person will put, a level 3 effort into doing split squats on a regular basis, but a pro will put a level 10 effort into it. And most people go around putting a level 5 effort into level 2 problems. And what that means is like, I'm going to go and start a new program. I'm going to start a new thing, and I'm going to do it for about 2 weeks because I got a little bit of, dopamine hit from it, but I don't get long-term results. But if you want long-term results, it's that level 10 effort into your level 10 problem.
Man, that resonates so much. And I told you, like, this book, I feel like was written for me at this point in my life. And like, that was one of the biggest things for me is like, there's a difference between being productive and being busy. And that's one thing totally. That like another saying that I've heard. And like, I feel like I do that a lot where I'm getting things done throughout the day, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I look at like my to-do list or what actually needed to get done to move the needle for my business or move the needle for my family. And it's like, oh, I didn't do the things that were important, but I was busy. And so like my ego is like, oh, you were working really hard, but you're working really hard on the wrong things. And so prioritizing that. And so that was that level 10 effort on level 10 problems. That was so profound and something I needed to hear.
And the way that we fix that for everybody is, if you want to do great things, you have to do fewer things. If you want to do great things, you have to do fewer things. And so a lot of people that want to achieve a lot wake up in the morning with, 25 things on their to-do list. And, humans take the path of least resistance. So they start doing the things that are easy to get done. And the next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they have no more willpower or discipline to do the hard thing that should have been done, at 7, 8, or 9 in the morning. And if you get up and you need to plan and prepare the day before. And then, so the middle section where in the book where we talk about suffering less, if you plan and prepare properly, everything becomes easier. The path to success becomes easier. And I remember reading stories about Jaromir Jagr, right? And so was he 45 playing in the NHL, or like,
yeah,
80?
Yeah, 80, right? He's 92 years old.
Yeah.
and I would hear about his regimen. He's in the hallway at the hotel with the trainer doing reaction ball drills. Like, this guy was just planned and prepared. And we can talk about, he's kind of like a border collie. If you've ever had a border collie or known somebody who has a border collie, the dogs that just chase cars and, they're just obsessed. They won't eat, but they'll chase cars and chase balls all day long. It seems like Jagr was kind of like that. So we could argue whether or not that was sane, but he had planning and preparing in there that made the path to success smooth, because I've never played in the NHL. And, my wife and I just got this game over Christmas. It's like you ask, your family members silly questions. And one of the silly questions was like, who would you trade places with for one day? And I'm like, anybody who plays in the NHL. Growing up in Canada, like, just to step on the ice in the NHL for one game, that would be like the coolest thing in the world. I don't care who it, like, I wouldn't want to trade places with a specific individual, but that would be the thing. But most guys in the NHL, from what I understand, the guys who really do well are on a routine. I just read Matt Sundin's autobiography. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it was a really cool book. And he just talks about same breakfast, same this, same nap, same, everything was routine for his entire career. And that's planning and preparation. And so if you want to be successful as a business owner, hockey coach, hockey player, you got to plan and prepare the day before. You got to make the to-do list the night before, because if you make the to-do list in the morning, you're already too late, because you're using the time of day when you have that greatest focus to figure out what the heck you're going to do. So you got to do the planning and preparing. You also have to eliminate. If you want to do great things, you have to do fewer things. So get rid of all the fluff that you don't need to do, that's not going to move the needle, that somebody else could be doing. And in this day and age, somebody else can be doing a lot, whether it's editing videos for you, or whether it is, we just had a guy from TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit's a great website, great app. People come to your house and do your tasks. And, we just moved to a new house here in Vancouver, and we're ordering new stuff all the time, like a new crib, a new this. Oh, this crib doesn't work. Got to send it back, get another one. And I'm not putting all these things together because I'm writing a book. So, we get other people to come and do that stuff. And it's tempting when you have something very hard to do to find something else to do. There's a quote by a guy, I forget his name, but it's kind of funny in that humans can do anything as long as it's not the thing they're supposed to be doing. Right? Like, you could go and do the hardest workout in the world. Yeah, but you were supposed to be doing that presentation. Great workout, but you were supposed to be doing that presentation for work. And so humans can do anything as long as it's not the thing they're supposed to be doing at that time. But you have to eliminate. So you eliminate and you prepare, and those two things will help you suffer less on your path to achieving whatever it is that you wanted.
Love that. God, I love that. Oh, man, I know you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I know before you get going, Toph, like for me, that last thing, I did that today, literally did that today. I woke up, school. I run the training for an academy here in St. Louis, and school was canceled because it was a snow day. So last night I was preparing, my to-do list for today. And I'm like, okay, I have to do my taxes before I go to the gym tomorrow. And my wife wanted to go to the gym this morning. We have a young baby. So she went to the gym, and I was like, okay, when she gets home, I'll do the taxes. Then I'll go to the gym. And the day just started shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And it was taxes or get my workout in before this podcast. And I went, taxes level 10, but I gave it 0 and I went and worked out. So now
that's human nature, man.
I know. And now I'm sitting here just like, God, what am I getting these damn taxes?
So we humans have this amazing ability. And you see it in hockey games, but mostly in football games, you see it, right? The 2-minute warning. You watch a football game. It's like, wait a minute. You guys couldn't go 15 yards for 13 minutes of this quarter. And now in the 2-minute warning, you just went 87 yards and it was like, no problem, right? Because it's that deadline, the power of the deadline. And so you didn't have enough fire in your deadline, right? Like you could do it tomorrow. You could do it the day after that. And so without that deadline in there, humans have this ability to procrastinate. And it's our stupid human trick for whatever reason. And that's what stops us from putting that level 10 effort in there. And that's why, another one of our systems that we talk about in the suffer less part of the book is accountability. And if you can get accountability to somebody you deeply do not want to disappoint, so accountability to somebody you deeply do not want to disappoint, you will start to move mountains in your life. And I had this, I wanted to quit drinking. I went from a binge drinker to like a social drinker to like a very rarely drinker. And I wanted to really quit like completely. And it wasn't until I met my wife and she quit before me that I was like, listen, she's quit drinking. Obviously, I have no one to drink with, even like a social one drink. I'm just going to quit. And I'm not going to relapse on it because I'm not going to let her down. And so when you have accountability, so if you had accountability on the taxes, so like if you said, whether it was to your wife or whether it was to, the kids you train, like, hey guys, I hold you accountable here in training. Tomorrow, I'm going to come to training and I'm going to show you that my taxes are in a file folder and I'm going to drop them off to the accountant after I train you. If you say that to the kids, you'll stay up till 4 a.m. finishing your taxes because are you going to show up and they're going to go, hey, where is it?
Yeah, it's true. True.
It'll help you move mountains in your life. Now the key thing is that there are people in your life who you don't care to disappoint. And, we can talk about that for whatever, but it's like I've had business coaches where I did like 80% of what they said because I really didn't care if what they thought. But when I hired business coaches who I cared what they thought, I did 120% of what they told me to. So accountability is really, really important. And I've used public accountability, like putting stuff out on Facebook pages and my email list. And, when I do these podcasts, it reinforces everything that I say in the book. It reinforces every promise that I make because I don't want to meet somebody who said, yeah, I saw you on that podcast. And maybe on the podcast, I said, I don't swear, which I don't. I quit swearing years ago. And so whenever I see somebody, if they heard me say that and then they went to an event and I was on stage and I swore, they'd be like, this guy's a hypocrite. And being a hypocrite is one of the lowest things that, humans rank you pretty low. Is like you can steal an old lady's purse, but if you're, that'll be low, but you're lower than that if you're a hypocrite, right? And if you say you're going to do something, you don't do something, people don't like that for some reason.
Little old lady on a motorized cart. I didn't even see it coming.
Right. But you're a hypocrite. So we don't want to be hypocrites. And so even just sharing stuff, like, if you said, I'm going to have my taxes done tonight and you said it on this show, I mean, even though the show's not going out tomorrow, like people will still follow up and say, hey, did you do that? And you can lie and say, well, no, I got it done like 2 days later, but yeah, I got it done. Like you wouldn't do that. And so just saying that type of stuff, even if you never talk to these people, like just sharing stuff publicly is pretty powerful.
I do that on my social media all the time on my stories. Like I did it. I literally was doing it yesterday. Like I will be doing this. I am doing this. Like because I know that tens of thousands of people are going to see that story. And again, like now I'm like, oh, now I have to get that done. You're so right. That's so on point, man.
Yeah. And it's part of the third section of our book is achieve more. So we want you to stop chasing. We want you to suffer less, and we want you to achieve more. And how you achieve more is by setting higher standards for yourself. And so you have this identity that you're a man of your word. And so when you put stuff in your stories, you follow through because that's who you are. And if you have that true belief in yourself, it can be so powerful to help you get things done, move things in life, and achieve more. And, so that's really what it comes down to in the last section was the section is about achieving more through higher personal standards. And we even have a phrase in the book that standards eat discipline for lunch, or, because like people say that about all types of things, and standards do, because I use this like really extreme analogy in the book that if you put two people in a room, one was a vegan and, one ate, on a regular kind of diet, and you put them in a room for 12 hours with no food. And then after 12 hours, you bring in cheeseburgers. Well, the vegan's not going to budge on their standards. But the other person, they're going to sit there and sweat it out for like 2 minutes and then just start eating the cheeseburger because their standard doesn't say, I never eat a cheeseburger. But the vegans never eats cheeseburger. And so standards will eat discipline and willpower for lunch, because if you have standards, you're not going to go back on them. And in the sports world, we talk about Mike Tomlin, who's been the coach. I'm not a huge NFL fan anymore, but my co-author really likes Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. And I guess it's 18 years that Tomlin has been the coach, and he's never had a losing record. Now, it doesn't sound as good as he's always had a winning record, but he's had like a bunch of 8-8 seasons, but he's never had a losing record in 18 years. And that's really impressive in the NFL. First of all, to be a coach for that long straight with one organization, but to have never had a losing record. And so Mike Tomlin has standards for Pittsburgh Steelers players in what they do. And it's really interesting and really neat.
I love that. Yeah. Mike Tomlin's the man. Mike Tomlin's the man. And going along with like the standards, one of the things, and you talked about your wife too, and stopping drinking. Like one of the things you talk about is the big why, and kind of why you do what you do. And Vex and I talk all the time about what's your why. Like that's a really big thing for us. And so could you kind of elaborate as it relates to kind of standards and identity? Because those are two of the biggest bases of your pyramid of peak performance, which we can get into too. But like, how does your big why factor into kind of who you are, how you want to live, and how it relates to the discipline that we talk about here?
Yeah. So, I'm an old dad, and I didn't get married and have kids until I was late. But for me, everything is for my family. And, I make time for them. So it's like, I spend 6 hours a day with my kids, 2 or 3 hours in the morning, 2 or 3 hours in the later part of the day, quality time. And I do everything. I set up my business so that I'm able to do stuff with them, whether it's go to dance class with our toddler or whatever it is, every doctor's appointment, everything is set up for my family. And so my standard is that I'm a father first. And, I run these businesses and do all that sort of stuff. And I cut back on my workouts because I don't, it's not my season of life. My season of life is to be a dad. Now I'm going to stay active and I'm going to eat right all the time. And so I'm not going to get overweight and have a dad bod or anything because of my background as personal trainer. I know exactly what to do, but the kids come first. The family comes first. And if I have to miss a gym, I'm going to miss a gym. But my standards and my identity are around everything for my family. So my standards are my standards. And it's like, my routine is my routine. And I'm not telling you to follow my routine. I'm not telling you to follow my standards, but I'm telling you the power of knowing your standards helps make every decision a whole lot easier when you don't have to sit there and hum and haw and go, should I go to Vegas for this bachelor party? No, you got these standards of whether you want to be a great athlete or whether you want to be, whether you're engaged and you want to, make sure that you don't do anything stupid. Like you just have these standards that will allow you to make the right decisions without you sitting there and flipping a coin on something that can get you into trouble.
And you can't create standards if you haven't decided what your why is and what your goals are. Like you have to decide, what is my North Star? What is my level 10? What is the most important thing that I'm in my life? For you, it's
Yeah.
obviously being a dad, and then your business comes second, and then maybe your physical fitness, maybe that's second, business, like you figure out those things. And once you have those priorities, then you build your standards off of that. If you have no why in your life, if you have no direction, like I always use like Waze, because like I'm an idiot and I'm not great with friggin' directions. Like I've never been good with directions. It's embarrassing. I should work on it, but I don't. And so I just put in the address into Waze wherever I'm going. But I always tell people, if you don't know the address of where you're going, how could you possibly decide what turns you're going to take? And those are the decisions you're making throughout your day. It's called an analogy, a metaphor. All right. So like, you can't decide where you're making the turns until first you decide, where do I want to go right now? And that sound, it's very similar to me with like these standards, guys, and it will change your life, and it makes it easier because the decisions are kind of laid out right in front of you, because you've already made these top level choices where everything then flows down a lot easier when you make your why first.
Yeah. And then the next step beyond that, which I mean, I'm totally on board with the North Star and the why, is having a specific definition of success. And as a person who's coached people and everything from fitness to business over the years, I get a lot of general goals. I want to get rich. I want to lose weight. I want to be more disciplined. What does that even mean? Because if I surveyed 100 people for their definition of that, their specific definition of it, it could be different. And so when you get very specific about what you want to achieve, then you can build that specific roadmap. But if you just have a general idea, like this year, I want to, become a high performer, what the heck does that mean? How can we even build a plan for that? Because it's not actually a thing. And so we need to get that figured out.
Love that.
Yeah, that definition of success, it really resonates too. Like so many people's definition of success, like you said, is very general. And I think mine was too. And as I'm reading this in your book, I'm like, man, I got to really like put together what that actually means. Right? Like, okay, one of my whys, one of my definitions of success is I want to be more present as a dad, right? Not physically, but when I'm with my kids, I got to be with my kids, and not, okay, so now what are the steps and what are the things that I need to do? Okay, I need to make sure that I get an app on my phone that turns off my social media at X point. I can put
and for people listening, there's a specific one that my co-author uses called the Opal app, OPAL.
Yeah, I got it right after
I don't use it, but apparently it's really effective. And then you got to figure out, like, okay, you want to be more present. Well, define what that is, so that, and then explain it to your wife, so that when she's watching you, she can go, oh, well, that seems to check the boxes or hit the parameters. They're like, is he being present? He said, he's doing this, but he said he wanted to do this. So, you can get feedback on it. But if you have these generalities, then it's really tough to evaluate your behavior. It'd be like if there was, no hockey net. Like, how would we know who's winning?
It's awesome.
Very true.
Phone box. Hey, talking about like putting the phone away. Craig, you on your last podcast with us years ago, you talked about one of your clients who you made put the phone in a phone box, and my wife and I started doing that. We still have it. Don't use it as much as we should, but like we kind of don't need to now that we have a newborn daughter. It's like she's the phone box. We get everything is geared at her, and phones are down and things like that. But that even that little thing was helpful. That was the last podcast, and I love that simple piece of advice.
Yeah, most of the success in life is simple. We just, as humans, make it a little too hard on ourselves. So this is an elimination, right? And so when you look at your performance, in most cases, the reason why you're not performing as well as you want to in any area of life, whether it's fitness or whether it's on the ice or whether it's in your family life, it's because you have something holding you back. It's like a team that just gets too many penalties. They do everything else right, but they get too many penalties. You got to eliminate the negative. And I use this story in the book that if, like, imagine, Jeff and I were at the start of the Boston Marathon, and we were both 3-hour marathon runners. And all of a sudden somebody comes up to him and gives him like the world's greatest shoes, super lightweight, and they're going to shave 15 seconds off his time. And I'm like, oh, what are you going to give me? And they give me a backpack filled with 50 pounds of sand. Well, what's going to make the biggest difference in the race? Obviously the 50 pounds of sand. And so we all have these balls and chains that are holding us back. And if we can eliminate the balls and chains, the bad habits, we don't even have to do anything else. We don't have to go and improve in any area of life. Finally, we'll be able to perform at the level that we can because we've eliminated the bad habits. And whether that is staying up too late and therefore you sleep in the next morning, or whether it's you drink 3 or 4 beers a night, and it doesn't matter how well you think you handle beer, like 3 or 4 beers a night, you're not going to sleep well, you're not going to be great the next day. And if you eliminate those bad things, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm performing at such a high level and I haven't even improved my game in other areas.
Craig, how many of the people that you coach or anybody throughout your enterprise there, in fact, you and I were texting about this the other day about social media and being on our phones, right? And how it's like not good, and how we don't feel great and we're not as productive and all that kind of stuff. We had another person that came on our podcast probably about 4 or 5 months ago. Her name was Larissa Mills, and she's done a lot of research on just phone use, especially with teenagers. And
Yeah.
It was like an eye-opening episode, to say the least. How much of the issues that a lot of people have today have to do with being on their phone too much, whether it's social media or whatever?
Well, I mean, a lot. So here's what we generally see. Some things that will help everybody listening is, first, most people come in and they know they're on their phone too much. But again, this is a general thing. I'm on my phone too much. Well, what does that mean? So go to your app or go to your phone and you look up your screen time, and it will tell you how many hours per day you're on your phone. This is for the iPhone. I'm sure there's something for Android as well. But and then it will break down, like you're on, so you're on your phone for 4 hours and 3 minutes, and for 2 hours and 15 minutes you're on social media, and then 1 hour and 7 minutes you're on this, and 35 minutes you're on YouTube or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay. So now we know. And now it's very much like, okay, this team had, let's the other team have 40 shots on goal. Well, now for the next week, our whole goal is to go that screen time from 4 hours down to, 2 hours and 45 minutes every single day. That's our max. And for the next 5 games, our goal is to get the other team to only have 30 shots. And so now you can get into specific goals. And so we do have most people come in, they look, and it's around 4 hours that they're on their phone. It varies, but we see a lot of 4 hours. And within about 2 weeks, people can get it down to 90 minutes. And it makes a huge difference, because here's where it actually shines through in your life. Well, first of all, I mean, especially with the teenagers, I go to a public gym here in Vancouver. Unbelievable how much time people spend on their phones in the weight room. Like, I don't take my phone. My wife started making me take my phone to the gym, because I used to just leave it at home, because I'm like most people. If it's on my person, I'm going to check it. So I leave it in the locker room, but I used to leave it at home. But just stop taking your phone into the gym, because your workout will all of a sudden be 20 minutes shorter because you're not on your phone. And then, you cut down your screen time. You're not on your phone close to bedtime, which means you're going to get to bed on time. And one of the things that I have discovered in my 25 years of coaching people in all types of areas of their life is that one of the most important things that you can do is simply get to bed on time. And most of your bad days are because you didn't get to bed on time the night before, which means you got up late, which means you over caffeinated, which means you rushed through the morning, you got stuck in traffic, you got to work and were snappy with people, or you got to wherever you were and were snappy with people. Now, if you just dial that back, let's reverse engineer. Well, I don't want to get stuck in traffic. Well, don't get stuck in traffic. That means have breakfast on time. Well, if I'm always having breakfast late, well, why am I having breakfast? Well, I get up late. Why do I get up late? Why do I hit snooze? Because I don't get enough sleep. Why don't I get enough sleep? You don't get to bed on time. Why don't I get to bed on time? Because I'm on my phone. And so you just reverse engineer, and all of a sudden, all the problems, many of the problems in life, the root problem is back to the phone. Guys who use pornography and don't want to, it's because they see something that triggers them on their phone. They're just innocently scrolling social media, and they go to their explore page, and all of a sudden, because they clicked on some girl doing squats, 3 weeks ago, they got 14 videos on their explore page of girls doing, squats, other exercises, just girls in bikinis. And it's now they go down the rabbit hole. And it all comes, if you just control your phone usage, you would actually be able to eliminate so many of your bad behaviors, even like eating junk food or watching Netflix and all that sort of stuff. The root behavior or the root cause of that is the phone in many cases. And so when you control your phone use, you eliminate the temptation of so many vices. And the next thing you know, again, you haven't improved in any area of life other than you've cut out the negative, and your performance goes to the next level.
Love that. Vex, what are your thoughts?
I mean, well, first of all, just speaking about efficiency, like, I train professional athletes for a living, and I tell them all the time, like, if we can work on your kinetic linking, and for people who don't understand that, what that means, it means like power and strength and the ability to transfer those things from the floor into your foot, up your ankle, up to your lower leg, through your knee joint, through your hip, up through your core and out of your arms, just by learning how to connect the power from the ground through your hands by being more efficient. If you don't get any stronger, you get more powerful because you had a straighter line. It's like going from point A to point B. So like when you get more efficient, you get stronger, you get faster, you get more powerful without adding any more strength, speed, or power. It's literally because you got more efficient. So like, and the way that you can do all of these things in your daily life and in the gym is literally what he just said. Reverse engineer. Where do I want to be? And or why did this bad thing happen? Why? Answer honestly. Now answer that question. Why did that happen? Like he said, why did I show up at work and why was I snappy? Oh, because I got stuck in traffic. I was late. Why? Because I had to spend 5 extra minutes and I walked out of the door late. Why? Because I didn't eat breakfast on time. Why? Because I slept in. I hit snooze. Why? Because last night I went to bed 3 hours later than I wanted to. What is the fix for the entire day for you not to be snappy? Get to bed earlier. Just by peeling the onion of constantly looking in the mirror during reflection. And Toph and I talk about this all the time. And Toph and I have also talked about coaches. When you're trying to get a player to buy into themselves or to be better, literally just asking them that why question over and over and over and over. Oh, you're not playing as much as you want right now. Why do you think that is? And let them answer. Oh, you're not playing your best hockey right now. Why is that happening? Then they'll think about it. Oh, I haven't had great practices. Why aren't you having great practices? Because of this. And just keep asking them why until you get to step one, the root cause. And now you can change the root cause and you take a completely different path, which then leads you closer to the goals that you want to be at, literally by just peeling back the onion and being honest and asking why, and then making a plan for the next day to change the trajectory of your day. I love it, Craig. Literally love it. That's how I became a professional hockey player when there were guys who were way better than me. Is because
that is such a great breakdown.
Because I could do that right there. And even though I wasn't faster or definitely not more skilled or had as good as hockey IQ, I would try to peel those layers back and try to systematize and have standards for my day with how I ate, the things that I put into my brain, doing coordination drills on an iPad on the way to a game, because I knew that made me fire my brain 1 millisecond faster than maybe a guy who naturally had more ability than me. And so like these things, guys, like this will change your life, whether we're talking about being a better hockey player, a better coach, you want to make more money, but you have to decide where you want to go, ask the whys, break down the onion. Like, I'm not the biggest reader in the world. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I try to listen to TEDx talks and things like that because I'm going and doing all these different things throughout the day. So that's how I try to get smarter. But you're making me want to read this damn book, Craig.
Well, I'll have an audiobook for you real soon.
Okay. Well, that's more my speed, man. Thank you.
But I'll tell you what, I have a very good friend of mine who built a very large business over 10 years, and he didn't read a single book over that time because that's not the only way to learn. And I talk about this, I joke about it in the start of the book, people, oh, you got to read a book a week or a book a month. And it's like, we just get off track. We're like, oh, well, I guess I should, read a book a month. And then the next thing you know, you're just ripping through a book and you're not paying any attention to it. And you say, yeah, I read that book. And what'd you learn? Well, nothing. Oh, okay. So it's, people get too focused on the means to the end instead of the end. And the end goal is to get smarter. And how we get smarter, there's lots of ways to do it. And how to get more disciplined, how to be more successful. There's lots of ways of doing it, but you got to figure yourself out.
Yeah. I think that's huge right there. The figure yourself out part. Like, I'm a doer. I learn more from doing and messing up and then right away trying to fix it and do it better tomorrow. And so I know that about myself. So I have no problem now putting myself out there, knowing that I'm not going to be good the first time, but that for me, the experience, the hands-on tangible experience is how I personally learn the quickest. So I have no problem just being like, yeah, I'll go try that right now. I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not going to read about it for a month. I'm going to go do it and learn on the job right now. And I'm okay that I won't be good at it at first. And like you said, knowing what type of learner you are or things like that, for me, that's huge. And that's Toph and I. Toph is the same way in that way, but Toph is a voracious reader, and that's why he's the Cornell grad, and that's how we are different. But like, that's why on this show, like we think the same way, but we come at problems differently, and that's why I love doing the show with him. So like, Toph, what do you got on peeling back the onion and stuff here?
Well, I think just kind of go, like, you talk a lot in the book about reflection, Craig, and in a lot of different ways. Some of the things in the books, like I said, it's resonated. Like, everybody's definition of discipline is different, right? Like, everybody's process, like there's some commonalities that people need to have, but like it's different for everybody. And one of the things that, as we're peeling back the onion and talking about this reflection piece, that I thought was really powerful, because we talk about identity a lot in hockey, right? Like, what's your team's identity? What's your personal identity? And how can that identity lead to the team's identity and stuff like that, and how important it is. We're really big believers in that. That's a big part of what you talk about. And one of the things that really kind of resonated was change your story to change your identity. I think we connect so much more through story. And I even know when I'm doing my public speaking, if I'm talking about more like how-to kind of stuff, people are kind of engaged. When I'm telling a story, people are like locked in. Like, I want to know about this stuff. And so you talk about changing your story to change your identity. I think it would be very cool for the players, and particularly even the parents that are listening to this right now. Could you just speak a little bit to that, and how that can help us to reflect, and how that can help us be the best versions of ourselves and what we want to be and where we're going?
Right. And so the words that we use to describe ourselves matter. And so earlier, like even you said, I'm not good at reading maps. Now, if you say that to yourself all the time, are you ever going to become good? And I used to say to myself, I'm introverted. I don't like crowds of people, all that sort of stuff. And so when you do that self-talk, you put yourself in a box. And if you're a player, it's like maybe somebody sometime criticized your back checking or your forechecking or your penalty kill. And all of a sudden, now you've got it in your brain that the story is you suck at penalty killing. You suck at this aspect of the game because somebody somewhere sometime put that earworm into your brain. And it's just a story that you've made up and continued to foster for yourself. If you take a look at some of the greatest players in the world, not all of them, but some of them have used the flip side, where they've reframed or they've simply told a story where, especially if you know somebody who just, plays above their weight or punches above their weight sort of thing, right? It's like, how is that person? Like, he's small, he's this, he's that, he's slow, but he's scoring 3 points a game. It's because he's telling stories in his head that he is a great player, that he is this, that he is that he can compete, that he can do this, that he can do that. And everybody needs to reframe the stories in their head. So for me, I don't say that I'm an introvert. An introvert, for anybody that doesn't know, is the type of person who generally likes to spend more time with themselves, who recharges when they're by themselves. And when they're around other people or speaking to other people, they kind of get drained of energy. And so for a long time, I told myself that story. Now I say I'm a person who has introverted tendencies, but I'm not an introverted person, which then allows me, because I've reframed my brain around it, like, yeah, I have introverted tendencies. And once I get through at the end of this, big meeting and, or like 2-day event that I run all the time, it'd be fun to like kind of unwind by myself in the hotel room or, when I get home. But for the next 2 days, I'm going to be super extroverted. I'm going to go and I'm going to be high energy. And you can go from low energy to high energy just like that, if you tell yourself that story and you have, techniques and routines for it. And anybody can do that. And you can go from, I've had friends who went from, being super binge drinkers to not drinking ever again overnight, who just decided to say, I'm not the type of person who drinks. Now, most people, will have a longer journey, but I know people that have quit almost all types of bad habits just by saying, I don't like that story that I'm telling about myself. And today am going to write a new story. And just like that. And the mind works in incredible ways, and you can do that. And so for everybody out there, it's self-reflection time. What the heck am I saying to myself that's not true? What is the truth? And how can I reframe that? How can I find, so if to use an example, like I'm really bad at penalty killing. Okay. Well, every time you've penalty killed, has the other team scored a goal? No. So you've successfully killed penalties. Yes. Okay, great. So we're starting to reframe the brain. We've found evidence that what you're saying about yourself, the negative story, is not true. And we're finding evidence that the positive story, the flip side, is actually true. And it's more true than the negative story that you're telling yourself. I can't get strong. I'm always late. Whatever, I can't lose, some guys can't get strong and gain weight. Some guys say, oh, I can't ever lose the body fat or whatever. It's all baloney, because it's all just a story that you're telling yourself. Because there's an example of somebody fatter than you who, got lean. There's an example of somebody skinnier than you who gained muscle. There's an example of someone who was a slower skater than you who got faster. There's proof out there. And so you find the proof and you start to reframe the story. You reframe your brain, and you can do amazing things when you do that.
It goes back to the saying, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. Yeah. I gave a speech on Monday to like 20 YMSL kids, Young Men's Service League, here at my gym on Monday night. And the speech was on effective communication that they wanted me to give a speech on. And at the end, it was talking about self-talk. And I was like, literally, self-talk, I think, is the reason that I signed in the NHL. I learned about it from a sports psychologist when I was 18 years old, and now I shouldn't do it as much, but it's funny. And that's what a lot of people have a problem with: self-deprecating humor. If you are trying to achieve a goal and you're being funny, you think it's funny to self-deprecate, you are hurting your future actions because of what Craig just said. You are putting a self-limiter on you, even though you're trying to break the ice, whatever. During my career, I never said bad words about myself. Once I learned this, I never said, oh, I'm not a skill guy. Oh, I can't do this, because I knew right away that would put myself in a box and actually limit the way that I would go and attack getting better on the ice, in practice, in the gym. Guys, this is so damn important, how you talk to yourself. Do not put yourself in a box.
Well,
absolutely.
And one of the things, Craig, and you might have taken this from somebody else, but it was something that I took from the book too. As we talk about this stuff and being the person you want to be, it's like every action that you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
Yeah. That's from James Clear in Atomic Habits. And, I'm sure somebody said it before him, but it's totally true. It's totally true. If whether you're trying to kick a bad habit, or whether you're trying to become a great father, or whether you're trying to become a great player, a great coach, every action that you take, and it's from the preparation to the elimination, it either votes for it or it votes against it. And so just, through the preparation, you can set your intentions, you can make the right decisions easier so that the votes are easier to make in the right direction. And then you pile that up over time. And the next thing you know, you've just lifted your confidence levels and totally changed your life.
Totally. Well, Craig, this has been unbelievable. If you you got to get this book, guys. It's The Dark Side of Discipline. Craig's written other books before that are amazing too. But this one, like I joked about at the beginning, I feel like you you maybe interviewed me for the book beforehand to get your stuff. But when's it coming out? When can people get it? Where can they get it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so we have a website right now, darksideofdiscipline.com, where if you're listening to this before it comes out, you'll get put on the hot list. If you're listening to it after it comes out, which should be April of 2025, you will be able to get it on that website. Plus, it'll be on Amazon and everywhere. We'll have the audio book, we'll have the ebook, the physical book. So it'll be everywhere all the time. And my mission now is just to make sure everybody knows about it. And I appreciate you guys letting me share the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Vex, you got anything else?
No, I mean, guys, like I learned about, obviously not at the level that Craig teaches people, but I learned about this stuff at a young age. And this is the reason. This type of stuff if you can hack, I call it, if you can hack your subconscious mind, it will start to change your actions that you take on a daily basis just by like doing these things that he's talking about, planning and thinking about your North Star, thinking about that. And like specifically, where do I want to be? Because if you are not specific, you can't put that address into Waze and decide what turns you're going to take to get there. It's like this will completely change the way that you act every single day, which day after day, you're going to get closer and closer to your end goals. But if you don't do this stuff, it's a crapshoot and you're hoping you get there. So like for me, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. If you actually want to achieve a specific goal, you should care enough to do these things, and it will 100% help you get better.
You know, man, I got a 6-month-old boy, and if he ever gets good at hockey, I'm going to have to move to St. Louis to have him coach you, because, man, that is anybody who works with you is any parent who's listening to this and their kid works with you, they are lucky because they got a great influence. I love that.
I appreciate it, man.
Yes, they are. All right, Dark Side of Discipline. Craig, if you have a couple more minutes, give a little rapid fire 10 questions. That'll be in our Hockey Think Tank community. This is for everybody that's in our community. So if you're not in there yet, go to community.thehockeythinktank.com. And a lot of these questions are going to be right up your alley here, Craig. So I'm excited for it. But thank you so much for your time here today.
No problem.